15 years old with a semi-automatic rifle shooting up Osceola County.
We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
Danta Wright. He didn't run. He didn't panic. Instead, Danta Wright smiled right after admitting he killed someone. This story started in Ann Arbor, Michigan. 18-year-old Jordan Klee is a high school athlete, focused, respected, and he was about to be robbed by people he didn't expect. Danta Wright and two others planned to take Jordan's drugs, his clothes, his shoes. It was supposed to be quick, but Jordan fought back. That's when Wright raised a gun and shot Jordan at the back of his head. Jordan died instantly. Fast forward to the courtroom. Jordan's family spoke about the future they lost.
Sincerely hope that whatever it was you wanted so badly that you felt the need to murder my son was worth the next at least 52 years of your continued existence. You won't get the luxury of raising your child because you took mine away.
The room is heavy, but Wright's reaction would leave you stunned. When it was his turn to speak, Wright said this.
I just want to tell y'all, I'll be home soon. R.I.P. Keon, I love my family.
That's all you got to say.
Yes.
The judge, angered by his behavior.
But watching you sit there, smile, and laugh, and shake your head like this was no big deal, I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
Eventually, the deal moves forward. Danta Wright was sentenced to 25 to 52 years behind bars. No tears, no remorse. One life taken in seconds, and another spent smiling as the door closes. But this was only the beginning.
I stopped in my doorway, and I looked at him, and I said, "Oh my God, Martice." I said, "Please, you don't have to do this." And he looked at me, and he said, "Yes, I do."
Martice Fuller. He's only 15 years old, but in just minutes, Martice Fuller is about to walk into a house and end a life he once said he loved. It was a quiet night in Kenosha County, Wisconsin. Inside a bedroom, music was playing softly. Kaylee Judah was on her bed, unaware that her ex-boyfriend was about to force his way inside the house. Her mother heard movement. She steps into the doorway, and what happens next freezed her forever. She saw Martice Fuller holding a handgun. She begged him to stop. She tells him he doesn't have to do this. He looks at her and says, "Yes, I do." Gunfire exploded through the room. Kaylee is shot 5 times. She died there, surrounded by music that never turned off. Her mother rushes toward the sound, and she was shot too, twice. She survived. Fuller ran from the scene. Now, fast forward to the courtroom. Throughout the trial, Fuller barely reacts. No tears, no visible remorse. He pleads not guilty. But the evidence keeps stacking. Prosecutors are about to tell the jury this wasn't random.
Their home is a graveyard of memories.
They say Fuller blamed Kaylee for his expulsion from school, for losing football, for everything falling apart. Witnesses, including his own relatives, are about to testify that Fuller confessed and that they helped dispose of the gun. The defense pushes back. They question eyewitness identification. They suggest doubt. But after just hours of deliberation, the jury is about to speak.
I don't have any ability to trust that you will never commit these acts. You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being.
For the first time, Fuller shows emotion. At sentencing, a statement is about to be read on his behalf.
So I am sorry. Despite the hatred that is against me, I still am sorry. but I have to continue to stand innocent because I am. I am not the person the media has made me out to be.
The judge isn't moved.
You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being. So in the interest of protecting the public, acknowledging the seriousness of these acts, the court orders that on count 1, you are sentenced to life in prison without eligibility for extended supervision.
Life in prison, no chance of release. As the words land, Fuller barely reacts. And while Fuller barely reacted, the next case would prove that sometimes the desire for attention can be just as deadly as rage.
15 years old. I mean, that's the thing that's hard to wrap your head around. Is this was a 15-year-old who was out, you know, with a semi-automatic rifle shooting up Osceola County.
Konrad Schafer. He was only 15 years old, but in just weeks, Konrad was about to turn an entire county into a shooting range. It starts late at night in Osceola County. A teenager took a gun out of his house while his father was asleep. A .45 caliber carbine, 100 rounds. What happens next isn't chaos, it's repetition. Konrad and 3 friends drove through neighborhoods, firing at homes, cars, anything that moves, night after night. Residents hid, police scrambled. Then the violence shifts. 17-year-old David Guerrero was shot while waiting for a ride to work. Later, during a home invasion, Eric Rupnerine was also killed for a few $100s. In court, Konrad apologized.
15 times I'm really sorry for the things I've done. And I know I did wrong, and I know my apology don't mean nothing to you. And I know it ain't gonna change how you feel about me.
The judge sentenced Konrad to 2 consecutive life sentences, no parole guaranteed. And one chilling detail, if Konrad had been just 3 years older, the death penalty would have been on the table. 15 years old, and a lifetime already over. But while his case was chilling, the next one would raise a terrifying question. This is Jennifer Mee. In just hours, the jury was about to hear how a girl once famous for hiccups stands a chance of spending the rest of her life in prison for murder. Jennifer Mee was known to the world as the Hiccup Girl. At 15, she went viral. Talk shows, sympathy, attention. And then the hiccups stopped. The fame faded, but Jennifer didn't. Prosecutors argued that years later, she wanted that attention back, no matter the cost. They say Jennifer and 2 others lure a man they met online to a vacant home in St. Petersburg. The planned on robbery, but it all turned out wrong. Inside that house, things went wrong. The victim was later shot. 22-year-old Shannon Griffin was killed. The take, $50. Now, as opening statements were about to begin, Jennifer's defense prepared a different explanation. They point to Tourette's. They argue impaired judgment, but the state says this was calculated. Jurors are about to hear a jailhouse phone call.
When I walked off, I was to the corner. I heard the first gunshot. After the first gunshot, I ran.
Jennifer Mee was sentenced to life in prison without parole. No death penalty, just a permanent ending. From viral sensation to a verdict that's about to define her forever. But the next case raises more concern.
State prison.
Andrea Cook. She didn't pull the trigger, but she's about to learn that setting the trap can still cost you your freedom. 19-year-old Andrea Cook was a high school student using a dating app. It looks harmless, but it wasn't. Cook lured a man named Perry Nader to a secluded spot in South Daytona. He thought it was a date, but it's an ambush. Waiting nearby is Cook's boyfriend, Kendrick Bass, and others. They rush the car. Violence exploded. Perry's friend, Emmanuel Purcell, was shot in the chest. Somehow, he survives. Cook was arrested and charged as a principal to carjacking and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Prosecutors say this wasn't impulsive, it was planned. orchestrated. Sentencing was about to begin, and Cook believed a plea deal meant no prison time. But the judge saw it differently. He called it an intentional ambush. He said Cook played a central role. Then he delivers the sentence.
Ms. Cook, you're before the court for sentencing. A couple of things going in your favor. One, you didn't hold a firearm during these episodes. The second is that the victim luckily survived. That being said, this was intentional. It was an orchestrated ambush, and you are a main part of that. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty of all three charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
The courtroom broke down, but something else was about to happen. The judge allows Cook to withdraw her plea due to miscommunication. She agrees to cooperate with the state and testify against Bass, who now faces attempted murder charges. A new deal was entered. This time, the sentence drops to 11 years in prison, followed by 20 years of probation. Cook apologized to the victims.
I just want to say that I'm sorry to the victim's mom that her son had been shot because I didn't even know he was shot.
One swipe on a dating app has already rewritten multiple lives, permanently. But if Cook showed remorse, the next case would show the opposite.
This is Brandon Spencer. The moment his sentence was about to be read, Brandon Spencer slams his head into the courtroom table because he already knows his life is about to be over. This story doesn't begin in that courtroom, though. It begins on Halloween night, 2012. A crowded party, loud music, costumes, a college campus that feels safe, until it suddenly isn't. Brandon Spencer, just 19 years old at the time, is about to open fire at a party near the University of Southern California. The target is supposed to be one person, a rival gang member, but bullets don't stay loyal. Gunshots fired through the crowd, people scatter, screams replace music. 4 men were hit. No one died, but that almost makes what happens next harder to understand. Prosecutors were about to argue that this wasn't panic, this wasn't fear, this was intent. They say Spencer knew exactly who he was aiming for, but he was willing to shoot through a crowd to get there. They point to an ongoing gang feud. They point to Spencer's own gang ties. Spencer, meanwhile, is about to say something very different.
I'm sorry for what happened, Your Honor, but I came to life in prison. And I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
The jury was about to decide whether to believe him. They don't. Now fast forward, years later to sentencing day. Spencer stands before the judge, asking for his life back before it's taken away. And then, the judge begins reading.
Minimum period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years to life in accordance with Penal Code Section 12022.53D. This is to be concurrent with
40 years to life. That's when Spencer breaks. Here's the final truth. Neither Brandon Spencer nor his victims were USC students, but one night of gunfire was enough to change the campus forever. And if you think this case was worse, prepare yourself.
Alyssa Bustamante. She was 15 years old, and she was about to find out what it felt like to take a life. On October 21st, 2009, in St. Martins, Missouri, Alyssa Bustamante asked her 9-year-old neighbor, Elizabeth Olton, to follow her into the woods behind her house. It sounded harmless. It wasn't. What happens next crossed a line no child ever should. Elizabeth was strangled, stabbed, her throat was slit, and then Alyssa buried her in a grave she had already dug. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't sudden rage. In her own writings, Alyssa admits she wondered what it would be like to kill someone, to watch life drain away.
Was her throat cut? And Alyssa said yes.
And after was finally done, She went to a church dance like nothing happened. 2 days later, Elizabeth's body was found. Alyssa confesses. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. At sentencing, Alyssa went on to apologize. Instead of mercy, the court delivers reality. Life in prison. Parole possible, but not for 35 years. Alyssa Bustamante won't be eligible for release until 2054. One decision, and a childhood, hers and Elizabeth's, ends forever. But the next video takes that reality even further, because the video, School Shooters, would leave you entirely speechless.
This is the worst case I've ever seen.
Oh my God! You gutted him.